Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into the actual thermodynamic realities of our fracturing global systems. We're going to look under the hood of the modern world, and more importantly, we'll discover exactly how to practically build local resilience while everything around us is changing so fast. Okay, let's just start with a question that honestly haunts a lot of us right now. Why does it feel like the world is unraveling, even when the economy is supposedly growing? I mean, we're constantly told that efficiency is up, GDP is skyrocketing, and stock markets are hitting record highs. But our nervous systems, they register something completely different. We're seeing erratic weather, hollowed out local communities, and super fragile supply chains. It just doesn't add up, right? Which brings us to part one, the grand illusion. To really grasp this massive cognitive dissonance we're all feeling, we've got to look way past the surface symptoms. Now, we hear a lot of buzzwords in the news, right? Like polycrisis, this messy knot of climate change, inflation, and resource depletion. But treating those as separate, isolated issues is kind of like trying to paint dying leaves green. What we are actually facing is a metacrisis. This is the underlying cultural pathology, the very operating system of human consciousness that generates all these interconnected breakdowns in the first place. It's a worldview built entirely on reductionism and the fatal illusion that we can somehow have infinite economic growth on a strictly finite planet. And this brilliant quote absolutely nails our predicament. The industrial Titanic has hit the thermodynamic icebergs of resource depletion and ecological overshoot. Think about it. For a century, we've all been passengers on this massive, centralized vessel. It was built on a seemingly endless supply of cheap fossil fuels and this wild hubris that we could just dominate nature forever. But the ship has literally hit the iceberg. The math of ecological overshoot is catching up, and frankly, we're taking on water. So here is a really crucial distinction we have to make. We are not facing a problem. A problem is something that can be fixed with a neat new gadget or a quick policy shift. What we are facing is a predicament. Predicaments are entirely different beasts. They do not have simple solutions. Instead, they are incredibly complex situations that demand a fundamental structural adaptation in how we actually live our lives. You just can't innovate your way out of the laws of physics. We have to adapt. This leads perfectly into section 2, the traps of paralysis. Let's look at the psychological pitfalls we inevitably tumble into when we finally realize, oh wow, the ship is genuinely sinking. Human beings tend to violently oscillate between two major extremes here. On one side, you've got techno-optimism. This is essentially the bargaining phase of civilizational grief. It's this absolute delusion that brilliant engineers and corporate greenwashing will just magically invent us out of thermodynamic limits, so we literally never have to change our consumption habits. And on the flip side, fatalism. This is the depressive phase. It's the dark comfort of late-night doom scrolling, where we decide it's way too late to act, so we might as well just throw our hands up and give in. Let's zoom in on that techno-optimist trap for a second. It constantly pushes these massive pseudo-solutions, like giant industrial carbon capture facilities. But here is the wild reality. Building those enormous concrete leviathans requires the exact same energy-hungry, extractive processes that caused the crisis to begin with. You're mining, you're smelting, and you're burning massive amounts of fossil fuels just to build a machine to fight the emissions of fossil fuels. Honestly, we are literally trying to bail out a sinking boat with a drill. But what's truly fascinating, and a bit terrifying, is the shared outcome of both of these extremes. Whether you're banking on billionaire tech moguls to save you, or you genuinely believe the world is ending next Tuesday, both the techno-optimist and the fatalist mindsets serve the exact same function. They demand absolutely nothing of you. They keep us totally paralyzed. We just sit there as passive spectators, safely on the couch, entirely avoiding the really hard, messy, but totally necessary work of local adaptation. So how do we break out of that paralysis? Section 3, the gates of grief. Before we can be of any practical use to our communities, we have to bravely step through those gates. Right now, culturally, economically, ecologically, we are suffering from a massive collective phantom limb. We are constantly reaching out for that mid-century American dream, right? Infinite upward mobility, total career predictability, hyperconvenience. But we're trying to grasp the future using an era of cheap fossil fuel energy that has definitively been amputated. When we reach for that doorknob and just grasp empty air, it is deeply, deeply disorienting. And this profound sense of loss triggers something called celestalgia. It's a vital concept in clinical ecopsychology, and it's such a brilliant, heartbreaking word. Celestalgia. is the unique distress, that visceral homesickness you feel when you haven't actually moved anywhere, but your home environment, the physical landscape, the weather patterns, the seasons that literally anchor your identity have been fundamentally degraded right in front of you. You're home, but your home has left you. I really want to make this crystal clear for everyone watching. Eco-anxiety is not some personal pathology. It is not a mental glitch or a weakness that needs to be medicated away so you can just get back to peak productivity in a broken system. No. Your grief is the completely sane, biologically appropriate friction of your open eyes meeting a very harsh truth. It is a direct measure of your profound love for this world. We absolutely have to mourn the Titanic before we can build the lifeboats.
Which brings us to our final chapter, Section 4, Building the Bioregional Lifeboat. Once we process that grief and embrace collapse acceptance, we can finally shift our clear-eyed attention toward actual agency. We have to gently step away from frantically rearranging the deck chairs on the failing, centralized industrial Titanic. Instead, we need to channel all of our precious bandwidth into building schooners. Think about the difference. A schooner is small, agile, decentralized, and human scale. It's rooted in our local bioregions. It doesn't rely on brute force stored energy and global supply chains. It relies on real-time ambient energy, and most importantly, the skill and solidarity of its local community crew. How do we actually make that massive mental shift? Well, we completely abandon passive hopium and we adopt active hope. This isn't just a fleeting feeling, it's a daily, rigorous practice. You move through these 4 spiral stages. First, gratitude, grounding yourself in the present to build a resilient baseline. Second, honoring pain, actually validating that solastalgia and processing the heavy emotional weight. Third, seeing with new eyes, recognizing our deep interdependencies and adopting a living systems perspective. And finally, going forth, translating that new worldview into highly specific, local, restorative action. Let's look at a perfect, tangible example of this kind of localized action. We have to fundamentally change our relationship with water. Right now, we're totally obsessed with the drain. That's our industrial habit of heavily engineering landscapes, paving over absolutely everything to funnel water away as fast as humanly possible. And what does that get us? Devastating floods and brutal droughts. We have to reject that architecture and rebuild the soil sponge. This is a living, breathing matrix of roots, fungi, and organic matter that eagerly catches and holds on to every single drop of rain. You can actually heal the broken, localized water cycle and build this biological infrastructure using 3 incredibly simple mechanical steps. Number 1, slow the rushing water. Number 2, spread it perfectly across the landscape. And number 3, allow it to sink deeply into the earth. By using super simple, low-tech earthworks like digging swales on contour or putting in rock-filled gabions, you force that rushing water to slow down, spread out, and gently sink to recharge your local aquifers. It's all about letting the water cycle through the biology of your land.
And you know what the absolute best part is? You do not need a 1,000-acre ranch to start doing this. You can act as the crew of your own schooner right this very second. You can take a sterile, ecologically dead suburban lawn and transform it into a resilient, self-mulching food forest. Just cover the bare dirt with deep organic mulch, redirect your roof runoff into rain gardens, replace that shallow turf grass with deep-rooted perennials, and plant vertically stacked layers of food-producing shrubs and canopy trees. You are physically healing the ground beneath your feet and fighting back against despair with real, tangible action.
We cannot stop the macro trajectory of the global economy. The momentum is just way too massive. But listen to me. We have immense agency locally. We can rebuild meaning, community, and vital infrastructure right at the scale of place. So I'm going to leave you with this final, absolutely vital question to chew on today. The industrial Titanic is taking on water. What will your community's lifeboat look like? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Now I encourage you to get outside, observe your local watershed, and start building your schooner today.
We have built our world on a high-stakes assumption that our industrial momentum is as unsinkable as the steel hulls we once set into the Atlantic. But the elephant in the room has grown too large to ignore, moving out of our private shadows and into the center of our lives. This is the meta-crisis, the tipping point where the stories of endless growth collide with the physical limits of our planet. The Lifeboat mini-course is your immediate, structured transition, a free 5-day journey delivered to your inbox to transform global anxiety into local resilience. Day 1 begins with an audit of the invisible,
the energy and water systems you rely on every hour, yet rarely ever see. Day 2 forces a change in your geographical lens, challenging you to locate your true home within your watershed and local bioregion. You won't navigate this terrain alone. You will receive daily study guides and synthesized patterns designed to cut through the noise and reveal the architecture of change. Day 3 asks you to practice active hope in a world facing ecological overshoot. Day 4 introduces the demanding standard of revolutionary love. By tracing the water back to your neighbor's tap, you move beyond the narrow walls of self-help and into the expansive, interconnected practice of systems health. The climax arrives on Day 5 with the introduction of a specific framework for your future, the 9x21 harvest. Who is your mutual guiding spirit in this transition, and which 9 things will you choose to do? Stop waiting for the headlines to crush you. Sign up for the Lifeboat mini course now. Access your Day 1 materials immediately and join the community hub where the next story of our world is already being written.
You can remain tied to the illusion of a collapsing global credit card, or take this course to begin building real systems health today. The Earth is tired of the lie. It is time to dance with the truth.